Welcome back to the UnBoxed broadcast. As we continue our celebration of Women's History Month, we're pleased to bring you part two of our conversation with Christina Cooper Sanford. She's the CEO of Sanford Global LLC. We continue our conversation on how women in business are embracing femininity and turning the tide on historically patriarchal ideology. We're ready to dive in, and we're excited you're here. So stick around as we help you unbox the power and potential of your leadership.
I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and leadership coach. This is my co-host, R.P. Soriano. Soriano attended Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, worked in the financial industry, and was an international consultant before partnering with me to launch UnBoxed to Lead. Me? Well, I worked for over 20 years as a senior pastor and a community organizer. Then I retired and started a leaders peer support community called UnBoxed to Lead. Soriano and I have been friends since the early 90s, and with our varied experiences and expertise, we help leaders reach the next level in their leadership. So join us for the next few moments as we unbox the power and the potential of your relationships, your leadership, and your life.
Welcome back, one and all, wherever in the world you may be. I'm R.P. Soriano. With me once again is the esteemed Dr. Robert Davis, the leadership, enrichment, family life, and relationship expert, the founder of Unboxed to Lead, author of 2 books, Seasoned with Grace, God's Recipe for Healthy Family Communication, and the 12 Steps to Becoming an Unboxed Leader. Are you ready for part 2, my friend?
Man, part 1 was so phenomenal. I want to dive right back into part 1, but you answer your question. Yes, I'm ready for part 2.
All right. Before we dive in, I want to remind everyone to please like, share, and subscribe to the broadcast. Also, be sure to follow all of our social pages, as well as visit our blog page at www.unboxedtolead.com. There you can access all of the past episodes of our broadcast and webinars. You can also sign up for our newsletter so you never miss out on any of the latest content or specials that we offer for our services. So we're continuing our conversation. I would just have to say mind-blowing conversation with our special guest, Christina Cooper Sanford. She is, again, as we said, the founder and CEO of Sanford Global LLC, which is a women's leadership development firm near Phoenix, Arizona. She's also a licensed psychotherapist and behavioral healthcare leader. Christina, thank you once again for being with us on part 2 of this broadcast.
Thanks for having me, Ralph and Robert.
Thank you. And as I shared it the last time, we have known Christina since the early 90s. It's obvious when you look at us that we were around during that time. It's not as obvious looking at Christina, but we're so glad to have her with us today. In our previous broadcast, we're just going to jump right into it. In our previous broadcast, we discussed your leadership journey and the ingredients of your family. I was so excited to hear about your father and your mother and how they contributed to the leader that you are. We talked about some of your professional experiences that have helped to make you the leader who you are today. And we also discussed creating an inclusive workplace culture that counters the patriarchal narrative and the patriarchal systems that have dominated not only our workplace, but also our religious and societal practices and institutions. And I want to just take a second and kind of, as much as we can, there's so much that we went over in part 1, but I want to kind of put a little button with one final question relative to what we were discussing last time. And I'm interested because in a male-dominated world and with our new understanding of what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman, how do you approach femininity? I want to just kind of get your thinking around that before we move on.
That's a great question. You know, femininity at its core is really just being authentic to who you are, how you think, and how you navigate in the world as a woman.
Yes.
That is really how we embrace our femininity. It is not about jumping over the fence to try to align ourselves with the thinking, the processing, and the being in the world as a man so that we can somehow gain some type of allegiance from men. It's not really about that. It's more about being exactly who we are. And as we talked about in last week's segment, We talked about how women and men, how our brains are inherently different, not just in the way that they operate, but they are anatomically in some ways different, physiologically different. They look different. That the brain is a sex typed organ. And so I think with femininity, bringing to the table everything that you have that is a gift to how you have come into the world, how you operate in the world, how you see the world. With women, generally, based on the science, women naturally recall emotional memories more quickly. Memories that we have are more intense and richer. Both of our hemispheres as women, they interact with each other more than men's do. And so there is bilateral symmetry, meaning both sides of our brains are more symmetric than a man's, and they operate in tandem more so than what a man's does. So that doesn't mean that there's any superiority that I'm intimating here. What I'm saying is that based on the science, women were made to bring balance.
And I'm glad that you brought that, because as I think about femininity, I have been, what's the word I'm looking for? I have been conditioned to, when I think about femininity, the first thing that comes to my mind is the Southern belle, the dainty, very polished, sophisticated lady who, walks up the steps the right way. She holds her hand. She's just a lady of a lady. I'm seeing these movies in my mind. I'm thinking about Michael Jackson's Remember the Time, and it wasn't Naomi Campbell. What was the lady's name? Who was
Iman? I think Iman.
Oh man, yeah.
Iman.
I look at the way she held her hand as she was sitting there on the throne, and everything about her. Every time I ever saw her, she just oozed what I thought of as femininity. And what you're doing is you're challenging that thinking that I have, that thinking that I'm sure a lot of men have about what femininity really means. Is not just Iman and the way that she moved on the screen, but it's so much more. It's internal, it's anatomical, it's the brain, it's being your authentic self. Am I understanding you correctly? Because my brain is misshaped.
Yes, Robert, you are understanding it correctly. It's being who we naturally were created to be. And so the challenge in being authentically who we were created to be is that as women in leadership, we have a tendency to lean into what appears to be the most acceptable way, which is the mainstream male-dominated or patriarchal way of running things. Yeah. That is not the way to sustainable success in organizations, in society, in our families, in the world. It is incumbent upon us as women to bring our full selves to the table in all of our diverse splendor, because there is diversity in the way that we show up. So it's incumbent upon us as women to do that, not to shrink back and say, oh, well, I heard the CEO say this at the board meeting, but I didn't want to say anything, but I didn't think he thought about this part, but I wasn't going to say anything. No, the reason why you thought about it is because it needed to be said, or somehow someone needed to hear it. And so it is the unlearning of the patterns that we have practiced over the centuries in aligning ourselves with the man's way of thinking that we have to really push for that unlearning and then relearning to honor our own knowing.
One of the things that we do at UnBoxed to Lead is we help leaders to understand how they were pre-programmed to function in relationships, both from their family of origin, as well as from society and other aspects of their environment, and then to craft a clear course for themselves as it relates to how they want to function in relationships and the type of leader that they desire to be. And what I'm hearing you say is with femininity, it is so important that the leader becomes very clear about who they are, who they want to be, and then to execute that in their lives. That is at its core, the truest definition of femininity is to be true to thyself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. When I'm listening to you talk about this, Christina, it's so helpful because, and I don't even know how I want to say this, because it seems kind of strange to say it. I guess as a man, I've never, as a brown man, I've never seen myself in a position of privilege. But of course, when you are in a position of privilege, that's part of it. You don't even know it, right? I mean, you don't know it. You're just a man, and things open up for you, and you think you never think it's because you're a man. But when you talked about, you said something that really jumped out at me, and it was about it was something to the effect of the way that women behave in the workplace right now is based on the examples that historically that they've had. They look at the way men lead. And I think what we got to get to a place, what I hear you saying and what I'm experiencing from listening to you is that as a man, I have to get to a place where I say, it's okay for her to be a woman. That's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's different. It's challenging to me because maybe but it's okay. It is okay that I'm getting this kind of pushback or that I'm getting this. This is the woman being the woman leader that I'm sitting across from. She is being authentic. She is who she is. And on the other side, the woman leader has to say, it's okay for me, to be who I am. I don't have to imitate. I don't have to. And that's what we all struggle with, right? I mean, our example as Robert, you and I as male leaders, most of our example has been white males in a corporate setting. And so we tend to think that that's the way we have to behave. We have to enunciate a certain way. We have to dress a certain way. We have to laugh at a certain way, that, jokes that normally we wouldn't laugh at or we couldn't relate to. We've got to somehow, fit in and be, but we're seem to be acting in a way of the examples that we have. And we have to say, hey, it's okay for me to be me. And it's okay for them to be them. This is where the diversity comes in. So let's transition. Go ahead. You want to say something? Go ahead.
I think you nailed it. That is exactly what I'm saying. When I talked about it being incumbent upon women to own and to embrace their femininity, their thinking, their ideas, and all of that, when we're looking at a society and an organizational, typical organizational practices and the way organizations are run, it's also incumbent upon men, direly so, to not bring women to a place where they feel as though they need to kick down the door in organizations. What women need is for you to open the door and invite us in.
That's a struggle. There's so much that we could talk about today on this subject, and I know you want to say something.
I'm going to get into the next question, Robert.
Okay, go ahead, man.
I'm moving in.
But we do want to take. We did just to let the our audience know. We want to go in a little slightly different direction today. When you have somebody of Christina's caliber, you want to cover everything. So we're going a little slightly different direction, and we want to discuss the mental health and the healing of women leaders. So go ahead, Raphael, take it from there.
Okay, yeah. So you said earlier, you said in last week's show that one of the I think you said one of the critical things that is important for you in developing in leaders are the 3 C's of leadership: courage, character, and connection. And I think we've been talking a lot about, I can see why you say that. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of character to be able to stand in the line of all of this kind of cultural history, societal history, right? You're almost running up against a brick wall to be authentic. So how does that, how do we transition then into kind of behavioral or performative behavioral patterns with high achieving women in business? Can you talk about how that connects to what we're
with women? The thing that I see is that there are unhealed parts of a woman that are based on not just their family of origins, but also the way that they've been socialized in society. There are women who come to me for leadership mentoring that are sitting at the table as the resident expert in their place of business, and they feel bound as though they cannot speak up about what they believe, what they think, their ideas, or how to move those ideas forward in the organization. And so there's a lot of unlearning and healing that has to take place in the development of women as leaders. The other thing that I see, and this is actually the most predominant thing that I see, is that many women, especially Black women, are performing their way to healing because of things that have happened in their past. They have come to a place where they develop false core beliefs about themselves that say, you're not valuable unless you're performing, unless you're achieving in a way that brings on the accolades, brings on the worldly achievements that other people would place value on you for. And so when that happens, a person's inherent value cannot be realized, nor can they embrace who they really are, because they're so committed to achievement that they've betrayed themselves in the quest for that achievement. And so I work a lot with women who are VPs at corporations, business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are rising in the ranks of leadership in large organizations, and they struggle with, if I don't have these specific achievements, if I'm not staying at work until 9 o'clock at night when the doors closed at 4:30 and the security was put on at 4:30, if I don't do these things, if I don't overachieve and overperform and overfunction, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. My value is in what I do. My value is in how much I can achieve, how much I do achieve. And so there is so much, and a lot of that comes from the family of origin. With as Black women, we are, because of our historical oppression, we have been just really socialized to overperform and overfunction so that we can somehow gain equity, not recognizing that the powers that be are the ones who can distribute or ration out equity. It's not us. But somehow we believe that if I have a PhD, then I can enact equity. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. It's the dominant class who determines who gets certain things based on whatever they feel at the time is a value, or an added value. And so we've deceived ourselves, partially because we've believed the dominant class and what they've taught us through how they've treated us historically, that somehow we can create our own experience of equity. And it's not true.
So this all sounds very. First of all, my first feeling is this sounds incredibly frustrating, but it also feels very freeing in the sense that you're helping women to identify and see something that they may not. They know something's wrong. They don't quite know what it is. As I'm listening to you talk, I can't help but think about my wife. Robert, you might feel the same way. Both of us have very high achieving women executives as our spouses. And when I talk to and support and listen to some of the challenges that my wife faces as a leader in her organization, this is a lot of what I'm hearing, and it comes out as frustration, but neither of us can really fully put our finger on what is going on, which I would imagine causes a great deal of mental and emotional stress in women leaders that we see kind of come at us as men or as spouses as being highly frustrated, highly stressed. But I don't know. Thank you, because you're helping me to see exactly what it is that is going on, and what the challenge is. So how do you're helping women to see what the problem is, to actually give it a name. How do you start helping them to work through, to keep them mentally healthy and emotionally healthy through this?
Mhm. We start, well, one of the things that we do amongst many things is we go back to unlearning the pattern of doing instead of being. Many of us as women are focused on doing. We do, we do, we do. And we forget that it is in our being that we actually are adding value to the environments where we're serving. And so what does that look like? That looks like, again, I'm not staying at work until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I'm not answering my emails at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night because I'm with my family, or I'm by myself, or I'm with a friend, or whatever is going on, that you're not putting yourself in a position to reinforce the false core beliefs that you have about your role as a leader and your role as a woman in general. Your value is not based on what you do. It is based on you being human. It is based on you being alive, being created. It is based on those things. And so a lot of the work that has to happen is the unlearning of the things that are unhealthy, and then relearning or learning for the first time what it looks like to be in your workplace, just to be. I
So,
have
Christina, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
assignments that I give. I have a pharmacist that I work with now who pharmacy is extremely stressful.
I can imagine.
And this particular client, she has assignments where I need you to go to work this next week before we meet again, and I want you to bring your inner child to work with you. Not your false self, the one you created in order to make it through to your PharmD, to get into the large corporation that you now work for, to make all the money that you're making, and to be as stressed out as you are. You're going to bring your original self to work. And I want you journaling about what that feels like for you. Not responding to every single prompt, call, not making everything urgent, but sifting through to decide which ones of these requests are urgent and which ones can wait. And my value is not predicated upon whether I can answer all the emails and respond to all the requests. My value is in me being exactly who I am.
So the way our society is run, everything seems to play off of behavior. Few of us are mature enough to just be who we are, regardless of how anyone is behaving, right? It's always some kind of reaction to someone else's behavior. So when you work with the women that you're consulting with, what is their reaction? What are they saying happens on the other side of that behavior change? What's happening to the men that are on the other side of this behavior change? And go ahead.
And before she answers that, Christina, before you answer that, I want to just back up for just one quick second. Please don't forget Raphael's question. I want to back up for a second. I'm thinking rather, how much our society puts an emphasis when we talk about leadership development, especially. We put an emphasis on the hard skills of leadership. We talk about, the executive and the operational management skills that are necessary to run an organization. I know that at UnBoxed Lead, one of the things, and Raphael and I've talked about this, one of the things that we talk about that I think is so important is for leaders to become more balanced and to develop the soft skills of leadership. And by that, I mean the skill of controlling our emotions, the skills of not allowing others to control our emotions, the skill of becoming calmer and less anxious in a highly anxious organization, the skill of being able to stay connected with people who we disagree with, who disagree with us or who may try to sabotage us. The soft skill of being able to share our guiding principles, our thoughts and visions without trying to manipulate others in
Yes.
order to get them to in order to get them to perform. The soft skill of having a clear idea and plan for where we want to go personally and professionally, and being able to pursue our personal and professional life goals without sacrificing the success of the organization or while still growing the organization. I think that we put so much of an emphasis on those hard skills that a lot of those soft skills just go missing. And I think we need to get back to focusing, like you, and I love the word that you use, is authentic. And that's what we at UnBoxed use, is helping leaders to become more authentic leaders.
Yes.
So Raphael, you want to re-cue that question? Because I know I shared a lot, but it just jumped in my mind as she was talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, and thank you for sharing that. And that's what happens when you're interviewing someone as brilliant and talented. You're. I think that's what women bring to the organization, man. They get your gears turning. They make you think. They make you better. This is. I mean, you are witnessing live. You're witnessing it live for the men leaders out there. You can see what happens to men's brain when women start to share and to be authentic. You said that these hemispheres don't necessarily interact, but I think I can see Robert's hemisphere is really
it's lopsided. We all know it's lopsided. It is.
So the question I asked was, how do women, when they start to have these behavioral changes, what are they experiencing on the other end? Are men short circuiting? Are smoke coming out of their ears, or are they? Because I guess a big problem is that if the dominant part isn't going to change, how do you just continue to accept that, hey, I'm changing my behavior, I'm going to be okay with that, and I'm not really worried about what's going to happen on the other end of this. I just know that this is what's best for me. So take it away. Tell me what the experience is with the people you coach.
A lot of the experiences, disbelief at times, not knowing exactly what to say when a boundary is set that hasn't previously been set. But typically what I see is that there are adjustments that are being made in the workplace because women are changing, and they're behaving in a way that honors their well-being. And when that happens, while the males in the organization may be taken aback initially, but they then adapt and adjust because we're human. So we are adaptable, we're flexible. And it's really the work of the woman to become patterned in her protection of her well-being, because nobody else is going to do it. And so there is adaptation that happens. And on the part of the woman experiences decreased anxiety, decreased depressive symptoms, higher energy levels, mental and emotional space to do and be other things in their own world and in the world of their families, their love partners, that they weren't able to be before, because that emotional real estate was taken up by them doing in order to be valued, in order to be acceptable, or in some way, approved of. And if that element is no longer there, there is space there for them to live more full and abundant lives.
I said earlier when you were talking about this and kind of the experience of what women women leaders go through in the corporate setting, of just how incredibly frustrating it can be. And, an analogy came to my mind. It may be completely the wrong analogy because it just spontaneously appeared, but it feels like sometimes the company comes to the women leaders and they say, hey, listen, you ladies are the best softball players in the organization. We're starting a softball league. We want you to be a part of it. And they invite you in, you come to the game with all of your gear, all of your equipment, you're ready to go. And you get there and they're saying, no, we're actually playing flag football. And you're like, wait a minute. So we expect you to bring your softball skills into this flag football game, and you're going to play this game instead of the game that we originally told you to play. And I can imagine now just how frustrating. That's kind of what came to my mind as far as how you're feeling is about. I came prepared to bring myself and who I am into this meeting, but I get in here and it's a completely different game that I'm having to play.
Absolutely, and the rules are completely different.
Yes, and the scoring. What you said was that you women have to perform. They have to achieve, and more willing to do it. Hey, I'll hit a home run. I'll catch a line drive. I'll start a double play. But my goodness, I would love to be able to do those things. But now you're telling me that we're playing a completely different game here. So how am I supposed to perform? What am I supposed to do in that setting?
Yeah, and I don't even have on the right gear.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't have on the right uniform. I don't have the right tools, any of that. And
to continue the analogy, everybody else that has showed up, the people who weren't women, have come prepared to play flag football.
Absolutely.
Somehow they were in on it. They knew that this is what we were playing, but you were given a completely different message, completely different idea of what was going to happen. And I think, as I said, when I think about, when I see other women leaders, and I think that my wife comes to mind, I see that all the time in the things that she's described. And listening to you talk and share this today has definitely given me a new perspective to kind of help. Because I also wanted to ask you this. I mean, how important is this support system for women leaders? What is the spouse's role if there is a spouse in this leader, in this woman leader's life? What are we supposed to be doing? Those of us who are spouses of high performing, high powered women leaders.
And while you're answering that, what is the role of the male boss, for lack of a better term, to encourage and to foster? So if I can put both of those questions out at the same time, educate
and
us.
add a third element to that, the male colleague who is either a direct line or has the same position.
So let's start with the partner, the husband or love partner or whoever that person is. Support looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
Every woman has a different means by which they receive or filter their support. And that's sometimes based on how they feel loved. 5 love languages. If you draw her a bath, is she going to be like, you're the best person, the best thing that's ever happened to me? Or is she going to look like, why are you drawing a bath? I hate baths.
Yeah.
I need to shower.
Yeah.
So we have to be cognizant about who the woman is and what the woman needs. But generally, to be able to provide support to the woman in the way that she needs it is critical. Asking her, what is it that you need from me? It's okay.
Yeah, because the way my mind is wired is, I just got to solve the problem. Let me just fix it for you. I can just fix it.
And that's where that's where men typically go wrong in heterosexual relationships, is that they try to fix it. And the woman is like, first of all, that didn't fix it. Second of all, that's not what I needed.
It rarely does. I mean, it rarely does. I mean, that look on your face, I mean, I see that look 18 times a day.
I know so deflated when she said that.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
The biggest thing is asking, because it disempowers the woman when you go forward and just do what you think they need, unless you know, like, she loves her feet rubbed at 10 o'clock right before she falls asleep. And I'm about to go in and I'm going to get the oils. I'm going to do all the stuff, all the things. Then that. Those are things that you know. But when it comes to supporting her on her corporate journey or on her nonprofit leadership journey or her education, whatever sector she's in, whatever realm she's in, it's asking her what she needs. And also having a conversation with her about her frustrations without inserting your solution. But asking her, what feels right to you to do in this situation? Not, well, you need to go tell him you're not going to do that, because who wants to be at work until 10 o'clock at night? That's not okay. I mean, we got kids, you got to feed them. We got to go you can do all of that, but asking her, what she needs, what she is sensing inside of herself. So it brings you back to honoring her own inner knowing. It's
Mm.
you inviting her back to herself to honor her inner knowing. And, if you're of a spiritual practice or whatever, prayer, whatever that looks like, you're going to do that as well. If that is part of your practice or tradition. But it's always really about bringing it back to her and saying, what do you need? What do you feel like you need right now? Because it is frustrating. Yes, you're trying to do this project and you're not getting the support you need. They cut your team in half. There's no way you can complete this project in the time frame they gave you with 4 people on the team instead of 8, because they claim they're cutting the budget, and they expect you to be superwoman. So what do you need to do? Okay, I feel like I need to go sit down with my COO and tell her that there's no way the project can be completed by then. And I need to just be upfront with her and tell her that, and wait to see what the outcome is. Because I can't control the outcome. I can only control what I do. And the parameters I place around my well-being. That's all I can control.
Robert, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to have to bring Christina back on to talk about to answer the other questions that you had on for the boss, and then the one that I threw in there for the coworker. How do we support women leaders? This will not be the last conversation we have about this, primarily because I can guarantee you've just given me at least 10 years more onto my marriage. So, so we'll definitely be having you back on the show. So that will be our broadcast today. Christina Cooper Sanford, thank you so much for everything that you have shared, your insight, your wisdom, your professionalism, your femininity, the way you've helped us connect our lopsided brains and helped us to be better men, or at least wanting to be better men. I think we should get some credit for intention here.
Yes.
But thank you so much for everything that you've given us today. It has been a pleasure, and I think you are definitely a blessing and a treasure for women who are looking to get in touch with who they are, to be authentic leaders. So that being said, if anybody does want to reach out to you, Christina, how do they find you?
You can find me. You can actually email me at christinasanford.com. My IG is Christina Sanford Speaks, and that's both on IG and Facebook. And you can go to my website at christinasanford.com.
All right, we'll be sure to put links to all of that in the show description, because we definitely want to make sure that people have access, that women leaders have access to the services that you're offering. So that will be all for our show. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano. We look forward to being with you all again on the next broadcast, UnBoxed broadcast. The UnBoxed broadcast is produced by Bobby Davis Jr., graphics and video design provided by Damon Mace, and marketing and promotion by John Sedano. Remember to visit our website at www.unboxedtolead.com. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano. We look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast of UnBoxed as we help you unbox the power and potential of your leadership. Be well.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed2lead.com. Again, that's unboxed2lead.com.